Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm pleased to welcome you to a fantastic webinar. It's a bit a follow-up to the conference we had here in Montreal in 2024, when Chile was a sponsor and participated at a conference and shared with us what they were putting in place to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So today, to join me in the seminar, Sustainability in an Era of Climate Change, the Case of Chile, we have two fantastic women, Carolina GOTUZZO and ELENA CARRETERO. They're both Corporate Affairs and Sustainability Director, but for different companies. So Carolina works for the VSPT group, and ELENA works for the Vina Santa Rita. I had the pleasure to visit both of the wineries a few months ago and to witness all of the fantastic work that they're doing. So we're going to start with ELENA, who's going to share. Santa Rita are doing a lot of different things, but we decided to focus on the journey of reducing the carbon emission, because ELENA was saying that through this process, they've learned a lot of things that could be helpful for everyone else to know if they're on the same journey. And then we'll talk to Carolina and see what they've put in place to be more resilient in the vineyard to adapt to climate change. And then we'll have a discussion with both ELENA and Carolina to discuss further things that Chile is doing and to look at the future of Chile in the context of climate change. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and at the end, we will go through the Q&A with you. So, ELENA, I would love to hear what you have to share with us.
Hello, nice to meet you by Zoom now. And well, thank you for the assistance, everybody. Thank you for being here, listening. And well, as Michelle said, I'm the Corporate Affairs and Sustainability Director in Santa Rita States. I'm also in part of Wines of Chile, the consortium, the research and development, the vice chairman, because it was my past job. I'm still related to the sustainability program in the wine industry board. So, and now I would like to, as mentioned, here, let me share the screen, and now put the presentation. And can you see okay, Michelle?
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I know that everybody, you are very expert about sustainability, but always that we talk about sustainability, we had to take in consideration there is a definition that came, a long time ago in the Brundtland Convention, and it came from the economic development. Is the way that we are thinking in the future generation, and we need to develop today, but giving the chances for future generations to continue the development. So it's very important that approach is being always with us. And well, probably first of that, when we talk about sustainability, we always talk about the three things: the environmental, the social, and the economic. We cannot forget that. Today, we're going to see the environmental things and more specific, the climate change and energy. But we have to consider that is a big, big issue. Even in the environmental chapter, we have a lot of things to talk about: water, waste, biodiversity. So it's very important to consider that. And saying that, well, that's where the Chile has been approaching a long time ago. When I was in the consortium, it was like 15 years ago or more. We developed this approach of working the sustainability together as a wine industry. So first, we are working on that. Even if we are a company, we have this Wines of Chile that is working for everybody. So in define the sustainability, having measure, having a plan, doing projects for improve our levels of sustainability practices, and then communicate. And this is not only for my company, but also for the Wines of Chile. So now going to the climate change and wine production that we always talking, and this is in the environmental chapter. We know that we're having this problem, and we know that in particular the wine industry is very I mean, it's very sensible to this because we are talking about terroir. Terroir is climate and weather. So we are probably the industry most sensible to the climate change. So this is, we have been dealing with all this, with rising temperatures, so we need to do something. Even that we are not an industry that is contributing so much to the climate change, we need to do something. And well, in every study that you see, you're going to see that in Chile, particularly, it's one because we are in the Mediterranean climate. We are one of the zones that is going to be most affected. The central of Chile is going to be most affected about the climate change, not only in temperatures but also in precipitation. So you can see there, and it's mostly all the studies. And well, now is carbon footprint. Where is we need to say, what is the carbon footprint? Is, you know, the formula that we create for these 6 gases that are contributing to the change in the climate, you know, and these 3 gases that came from the energetic processes, you know, so that is what we have to consider. Is the 6 gases mostly put in carbon because we are the equivalent, but it's the 3 gases that are producing and comes from the energy and the fuels. You know, that is so simple, you know. So in this carbon footprint, that is the formula, we have been creating the 3 scope. And the scope 1 is the best way to say is the scope that we can manage because it's in our own job, you know, it's in the viticulture aspects, it's in the winery things that we do. We can manage that. The scope 2 is the energy that we are buying, so we cannot manage exactly that. And the scope 3 is the things that we are using in our product, final product, that has, you know, inside a carbon footprint also. So this is something that we cannot manage so much. So, well, what have been doing as a wine industry as Santa Rita? Long time ago, I'm talking about 2010, we started with this program, Sustainability and the Climate Change. So we asked to all the wineries to calculate the carbon footprint. So most of the wineries in 2010, they already calculated the carbon footprint. Well, then we have been working with that, but a big second program, it was in 2020, when we create this group of wineries that add to the science-based target, also Santa Rita, that I'm going to explain what is the science-based target. Is this voluntary initiative, it's a global initiative. You add it because you said, okay, I'm going to reduce my carbon footprint in order not to allow the increase in the temperatures go more than 1.5 degrees. So, okay, we're going to reduce in base of science, all the info that we have, and we're going to say the business as usual in a long term, in 10 years. So this is that the science-based target is. We added, so we have that commitment that it was voluntary to reduce the carbon footprint. But here I have some information, maybe it's too much, but I'm going to summarize about the carbon footprint in the Chilean wine industry and the average. This was made with 18 wineries and between 19 and 22. And as you see, the scope 3, that is the one that I told you, you know, is the packaging, is the transport, mostly, you know, you're going to see that. Is the biggest, you know, so it's very intensive, the scope 3. And when we go inside the scope 3, we can see that the category 1, that is the goods and services at the purchase, that is the packaging itself, is the biggest, you know, and the second biggest is the category 9, that is the transport. So this is where is the carbon footprint on the wine, on the wine. Even that you manage the scope 1, that is in your vineyards and in your cellars, and you have to deal with third parts, with the glass, I mean, with the bottles, and with the transport of our wines. And that's where we're talking about the weight of the bottles, you know. So when you go a little bit in the carbon footprint, you can see that, well, this is more now the second derivation of the carbon footprint, that we are talking about the flag goals, that is related to forest, land, and agriculture. That is particular the things that you can manage. And the other came from the fossils, and in the scope 1 and in the scope 2. and the first is in the scope 3. So now there is not only that we are going to reduce scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. We are doing like a double click, and in the scope 1, we are going to the things that we can manage. In the scope 2, so that is the separation. And as I told you, is for the ambition to not going farther than 1.5 of growth of the degrees. And well, here is the Santa Rita State carbon footprint that we calculated in 2022. As you can see, our total emission is 1,032 tons of CO2 equivalents. And well, you can see that the most important part is the scope 3, and in the scope 3, as I told you, is the packaging, the glass, because the glass is very intensive in energy. Okay, the elaboration of the glass is very intensive in energy, and it's the same, and obvious energy has the fuel. So, and the transport is the same. So they are where they are. Here, you can see it very, very like in data. 22 is the packaging. In the scope 3, that is the 82%. And transport is the, no, but that, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, this is 30 because packaging is only the glass, but we are having the others. So it's almost 30, all the packaging and the not only the glass, the others. So, well, what can we do? This is the 23 carbon footprint that we reduce a little bit, but because we reduce in the scope 2, because we bought the energy from renewable energies for companies with certificate, with companies that are producing energy with renewable energies. So we could reduce that. But now we have to go to reduce the scope 3. And this is where we have to work with the glass companies and with the transport companies. And even that we are trying to work on that, we still are trying to reduce as much as we can in the scope 1 and in the scope 2 using renewable energies. This is it was last year. Finally, we could launch this new solar plant. So now we are producing the energy that we are doing with this, and we are selling even the energy that we don't use to the others. But as I told you, the big problem is in the glass elaboration, because if we could, for example, produce the wine and put in Tetra or in PETs or whatever, and the carbon footprint will be much less than now. But for now, we want to use bottles. So the only thing that we can manage is to reduce the weight of the bottle, because this is in our authority. But the problem is that the glass industry is not still prepared for using technology with renewable energies for elaborating glass. So there is not the technology created to create so much energetic power. I don't know how to say the calorific power that they need for produce the glass. And in transport, it's the same. We are seeing some the hydrogen, the green hydrogen is developing in some cases, and the solar, but there is not still enough technology for producing the glass or for doing the big transports, you know, and change the fuel of the regular transport to these ones. So I think we need some time for them to do, and also we need to work with them and to make some pressure. And I just want to say something about the other things that are related, because I think the carbon footprint, maybe you can ask something later, but about other effects that are very important is the water scarcity and also the water quality that is going to affect a lot, you know, in the next years. So, well, Chile, you know, the opportunities that we're going to talk later, but we are exploring the south and we have some opportunities there. And we also need to study a lot in the quality, because now, because it's scarcity and it's coming with a lot of minerals, you know, the water, we're going to need to study that effects on the vineyards and on the quality also of our wines. So it's a lot of things that now we need to do a double click in the water aspects. So, well, this is what I wanted to say. We are working not only as wine industry in Chile, we are trying to work together, but also each winery doing the best that he can. I think we need to do a lot of things, and together with other aspects, the social aspect that for me are the second most important aspect that we have to work on. So thank you very much. I hope to in time. I'm sorry if I didn't.
It was great. Before we move on, Carolina, I just have a few questions for you, Elena. Um, you're saying obviously scope 3 because it's the supplier, you don't control the supplier, it's
Yes.
difficult. Um, is there a willingness because there's a lot of important producers like Vina and Rita and the VSPT group. Are you finding that together you have the power to influence a little bit what they do because you're important clients to them or not really?
Yes, in fact, I will tell you that in Wines of Chile, in the board of Wines of Chile, is the glass company, is a partner, associate partner in the Wines of Chile. So we are working with them, and we are doing the pression, and not only with the VSPT, but also with CARRETERO. But I think it's still they need more time because it's a real thing that the technology is not so developed for the elaboration of the glass to an industry level with the calorific power that they need. So they need to work, I think it's going to be a transition. They need to work with, for example, 50% of this kind of energies and these new ovens and these new things, and the rest with the others. But we are present. We are putting some pressure, and they know that they have to do it because other way, we're going to go to other packaging.
The good news though, your bottling plant, you have a bottling plant uh, in Chile.
Yeah.
Which is a
Yeah,
huge
absolutely.
advantage because there are some countries that order the bottle to China, it comes to their country, and then they set it back. So even though it's a lightweight bottle, it's by the time the full circle is done, the carbon footprint is so much higher. So
Yeah.
it's definitely an advantage to at least you have glass. And how about the amount of recycled glass that they use? Has it moved? Has it improved?
Yeah, in the calculation is considered and is the factor emission of the glass that is in the formula, the carbon footprint, is going to be less if the company is recycled and if the company is using the renewable energies. So it's going to be much affected this coefficient factor emission. So I think it's very important. But the biggest point is like the big numbers are going to be when they transfer the energy
Yeah.
to renewable energy. Because, for example, when we talk about bulk wine, when we say we export in bulk wine, so then we're not gonna have the component of transport, because the bottles are not going to be transported to the destiny, so we're going to bulk in destiny. But when you do that, even if, for example, if you work with a glass company, imagine that you are exporting to, I don't know, any country in the middle of nothing, and they, as you say, they import the bottles, and then they put the bottles and they produce the bottle, for example, with carbon. Imagine the carbon footprint is going to be still very big. So it's a mix of
It's
everything,
a challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
It's towards this goal, there's some uncomfortable decision that people have to make with the best they can do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some questions coming in. I know, Angela, I saw you raise your hand. If you could type your question in the Q&A, and we'll keep all the questions at the end. So please put your question in the Q&A, and I promise I will answer them. Carolina, I would like to move on to you. Having been there in January, I saw everything that you've put in place. It's incredible. And I know today you're just going to share some of it, but it's quite incredible everything you've put in place to be more resilient in the vineyard. I think, uh, as Elena talked about, mitigation is crucial, but we also need to find ways to adapt. To climate change. And I always like to say, when you teach wine, when you look at the grid of the ideal temperature for the grapes to grow in, a lot of those index or out of date, because when we did those charts, we were not taking into consideration the ability of the vine to adapt and all the things we could do in the vineyard to help the vine adapt. So if we look at those charts that were done and we still look at them and still teach them, in principle, we could not have Pinot Noir in Burgundy right now. We're still making fantastic wine. 2021 was great. 2019 was fantastic. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do before we give up and we say, okay, it's no longer suitable. And I think the VSPT group has done such a fantastic job. So I look forward to watching your presentation, if you can take us through everything you're doing.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, to join us. Okay, so VSPT Wine Group, as Michelle says, no? Oh, sorry. There. Okay, so VSPT Wine Group, just a little overview about our group. We have 6 wineries in Chile, 2 in Argentina. The most known wineries are Viña San Pedro, of course, is the biggest, but also we have Viña Lleida, Viña Tarapacá, and Finca La Celia in Argentina. In terms of sales, we're number 1 in Chile, in top 5 in Argentina in a domestic market, top 20 in a global wine scale. And we have more than 5,000 hectares planted both in Chile and Argentina in total. So we have the challenges that has the big companies, but also we have the benefits of being big. So it's both sides, right? We have challenges for being big and also benefits. So as Michelle mentioned, our sustainability strategy is mainly focused in reducing our carbon footprint. 2 years ago, we relaunched our strategy. It is composed, as you can see at the right of the screen, people at the center, governance, guardian, our commitments, and sustainable progress and climate action and climate change as the key pillars of this strategy. So for us, reducing is key, mitigation is key. We are committed to be net zero by 2050. We have committed to develop a climate smart viticulture, as Michelle said. We are totally conscious about what water symbolized and implies for the future. We are committed to be net zero, both in our industrial and agricultural production. And of course, renewable energy, as ELENA mentioned, are key to reduce the scope 2, which is very important because it takes a lot of investment to reach it. And also innovation and the eco-design part to reduce the packaging scope is really important too. So we have more or less everything addressed for climate change, but we have not to forget that sustainability is not only what happens in the environment, it's also what happens to our people, and also is the economic aspect, as ELENA said also. What are we doing to tackle climate change? Collaborate, and we think this is key. We are proud members of the International Wineries for Climate Action, and as so to Race to Zero. We are gold members. That means that we have achieved the maximum standards in this commitment. We are committed to reduce the scope 1, 2, and 3. This aggregation, this group is using the SBT approach. So that means that we have to reduce 90% of our emissions, and only we can neutralize the residual emissions through carbon credits. So it's very challenging. The inventories we use are based in the greenhouse gas protocol. And of course, we have to quantify, report, and verify under the ISO 40064 in the 3rd version. So it's a pretty robust standard. And as I mentioned, collaboration is key because we have the chance to share best practices in this group. So it has been a really good journey to join them. quantify and verify is very important. When it comes to carbon footprint, to have good data and really accurate factor emissions is really key. So ELENA show you like the emissions divided in scopes, but as we declared that we are reducing all scopes of our activities, we don't see the chart by scopes, by in total, rather than in total. So here you can see that for us also 53% is packaging in our emissions. From that 53%, half of it is glass. So we know the challenge is there. Also, transport, as ELENA mentioned, we are really far away from our destiny market. So 25% is transport and distribution. The agriculture part represents 15%. So we have a challenge also there in being very sustainable in the way we approach our vineyards. And the rest is energy and others factors that weigh a little. The good news of this is that we recently launched, together with other South American vineyards, a South American calculator. And this is very good for the South Cone, because we will now have available a tool to use to calculate our emissions. We are sharing the factors that are local, that are locally calculated, so it's more accurate. It will help us tackle the data and the numbers really when it creating the emissions. Okay, so just a quick note, this calculator is available in the IWCA website, and this is a very good news for the South Cone, because we will be able to do some kind of benchmark, make comparisons of data, and to see how we are improving in our management. So, as I mentioned, of course, glass bottles and packaging is a huge portion of our emissions. So eco-design is where we are putting a great effort. We have a really strong eco-packaging policy that is in line with the strategy of our business, but because of course, when you are trying to premiumize the industry and our sales, it's totally against what we are fighting to reduce the bottle weight. As you all know, consumers still think that better wines are put in heavier bottles. So we have to fight this argument, and we have to try to convince the consumers and the retailers that this is not true at all. So this is part of the strategy we are managing inside VSPT. We are also aligned to some international accords, such as the Bottle Weight Accord that was launched 2 years ago by the Sustainable Wine Roundtable. So we have set 3 goals in this area: to reduce the weight of our bottle portfolio, to leave it in an average of 400 grams. We set a policy of maximums by price segments. We are committed to redesign our packaging to convert it to recyclable, compostable, separable, and reusable ones. And also, we are committed to launch all new products that has to comply our policy. And also within recycling is very important. We need to educate our consumers to generate more recycling of all the packaging composite. Okay. And when it comes to the vineyards, as Michelle mentioned, we promote a regenerative approach. We are not 100% regenerative, but we use all the approach in the vineyard related to reducing the agrochemicals. Today, we are practically homeopathical in the way we apply pesticides or herbicides, and we try to not use it unless it's totally necessary. So the agricultural team is really involved in this commitment, and they are really looking the vineyard really close to see where they have to take some measures. Also implementing cover crops. 100% of the vineyards today are covered between rows, and this enhance, of course, the living soils and enhance the microbes that lives in the soils. Also introducing animals when possible is a good element to try to avoid the compactation of the soils, and also integrating practices that better preserve water in our soils. This is key to fight the scarcity of water. Biodiversity for us is also a very important aspect of our strategy. We really think enhancing biodiversity allow better and balanced ecosystems that promote a healthy vineyard. Biodiversity is a natural defender of our vineyards. They are also regulators of the climate, so it's very important to balance the plantations of vineyards and the existence of biodiversity surrounding them. Today we have planted more than 16,500 trees and shrubs from different species, endemic species. So we are happy with our strategy, but of course we need to continue improving whenever is possible. And as Elena also mentioned, we are certified under the National Code of Sustainability. We truly believe this is a huge and robust standard. It is best in class, and we are really proud of it. And we think that when it comes to certifications, we feel very comfortable because we think this overviews and oversees everything of all the challenges that the industry has. Also, an important part of our strategy are renewable energy. We start really earlier changing our matrices to renewable electric energy. Today we operate our facilities and cellars with 100% of green energy. We self-generate almost 42% of the energy we consume. This is thanks to a biogas plant that we have in Viña San Pedro, and also solar panels around our vineyards. When it comes to this type of energy generated on site, 40% of it is coming for solar energy, and 86% is coming from our biogas plant. And the good thing of this biogas plant is that we make it produce energy with the waste of our own harvest. So we are trying to close the circle, bringing all the residues of the organic waste that is generated during harvest. We send it to this biogas plant, and we receive clean energy back. Then the leftovers of this biogas plant, of this process, is also used to fertilize our vineyards. So it's a really positive and good project for us. So the challenges ahead, of course, the future has plenty and various challenges. I will try to focus in 4. Governance. We need to keep our leaders really engaged with our strategy to ensure that this is a long-term commitment. Today, we can see in many aspects that climate change is still a scientific concern more than an industry concern. So we need to always keep raising the awareness of the top management, of the board of directors, of the industry as a whole, also of the country authorities. In water, of course, scarcity will be the big challenge that Chile will have. I think we as a country need to invest more in infrastructure, and we need to innovate. There's a lot of good examples here in Chile. We have a lot of body of waters around us. We have the Pacific Ocean, we have the range, the Andes range. We have a lot of lakes in the south of Chile. We need to create a better and robust ecosystem around water. We need to learn more about the mining industry that is desalinizing water to their processes. So we need to go a step forward and continue adopting, of course, more efficient technology in our vineyards. When it comes to glass, we need to continue working in collaboration with the glass suppliers. They know the challenge we have ahead. They are working in bottles that are lighter and lighter and lighter. But as Elena mentioned, we need to move forward to new energies for their furnaces. And until they don't change their furnaces, the challenge is not totally accomplished. And of course, while everything is happening, we need to implement the best practices and comply to our eco-design policy, which is what we are focusing on now. And innovation is also a good part of it, of the challenges. We need to continue understanding the risk of the climate change in the long term, because we know today the effects of climate change in Chile has not been that critical to take us to a point that we cannot produce. But this will come in the future, and we need to be prepared, and we need to understand and to create awareness about it, because not everyone is looking this challenge seriously. So it's important for us to start studying, to collaborate with others, to have more good data and more good studies about it. And also, we think as VSPT, we need to be an early adopter of all the trends, all the new trends and innovation that appears in the wine industry, and to adapt earlier to this challenge, because it has arrived to stay. So thank you very much. That was all I have to share with you today.
Thank you, Carolina. I would like to bounce back. You both mentioned water. Obviously, water is a big concern for many countries. I think some countries like Canada, we just think it's infinite, but other countries, it's not so much the problem. It's not so much the case. It's a challenge. Water is also very expensive in some countries when you irrigate. Just want to put things in perspective. Right now on the planet, the clean water resources, so that's lake, rivers, 70% of that water goes through the agricultural sector. So not for grapes, but to feed the planet, for cereal and so on. We know that now we are about 8 billion people on the planet. We project to go to about 9 billion by 2050. So what it means is we'll need more water to feed more people. So unfortunately, the viticulture sector will not be a priority. How, knowing that a lot of, one of the main resource for your water is the snow, and the snow is melting in the Andes. How do you foresee the future of the wine industry in Chile with that challenge? How do you see water shaping the future landscape of wines of Chile?
Well, of course, it's a major challenge for us, Michelle. It will change totally the production and the agricultural map in Chile. We are a long country, so in the north it's the desert. In the Central Valley, where the vineyards production take place, of course, we'll have to rearrange, and many wineries are looking to the south, because it's like pretty much the landscape like Canada. There's a lot of lakes, there's a lot of mountains, so they're creating new areas and production valleys. So we think this is a country challenge. It's not the wine industry only. That's why I mentioned that Chile has to invest more in water infrastructure. Chile needs to be more innovative because we have water. The Andes Mountains has big glaciers. It's not just the snow that you see when you come in the winter, like that is stational, and that is the melting waters that you see then in the rivers. But there's a lot of glaciers and water in the south, so we need to create, there's a lot of projects of highways of water, transferring water from one side to another. And it's a huge challenge because it's a country challenge. It's not just for the wine industry. As I see, we have to start taking this topic seriously. We have water today, but that is not guaranteed for the next 10 years or 30 years. So it's part of the challenge to start analyzing. We are all in risky zones when it comes to availability. We also need to guarantee availability of waters for basic needs. So, of course, agricultural is not one, human is the first one. So I think the map, the viticultural map will change as well. And that is the reality. We cannot be blind about it. But it's part of a challenge, and it also brings opportunity, new areas developing, new sources of labor. So it's not totally black. I rather want to see this as a huge opportunity for the country to develop other regions and other zones of the country.
Elena, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, well, first you have to show the map of Chile. So it's go from the desert of Atacama in the south to Peru until the Antarctic. So obviously, if we're talking about climate change, this is a country that is going to have a chance of adaptation because it has all the climates in the country. Saying that, also the central, I told when I was doing the presentation, the central of Chile in all the studies is one of the parts that is going to be more affected, probably with some desertization. So the use of water is going to be fundamental. So I think we need to work, as Carolina say, in terms of not only the wine industry as a country, but it has to be like three pillars. One is technology, because the use of technology for doing drip irrigation is fundamental. So that is innovation, because sometimes with the, how do you say, the small quantity, una gota, how do you say gota? The drop of water, you can do with the best technology, you can do a lot of things. So that is something that we have to analyze and foster the companies to doing that. The second also is the study related to the soils and the vineyards that we can use in that terroirs. That is also very important, and we are doing with the universities in the Research and Development Consortium and the companies. And the third, of course, is to explore also other areas that we are doing all. We are having, it's like you're going to have better zones for elaborating wines. And now we are doing, last year we did in Santa Rita State, we did the first sparkling wine in Chiloé. So it was, unthinkable.
I haven't tried it yet,
ago.
but I'm very curious.
Yeah. So, well, only 50 bottles. So we had to wait.
That's what I was told, yeah.
Yeah. But, that is the three things that we had to prepare. And of course, I agree with Carolina. Chile has these mountains that are like a big, how do you say, container of water. So we need to create the infrastructure and the technology for using that water, and also for preserve the waters in the south, because we have the south that we have to take care of this big treasure of the south. It's like you in the reserve of waters that you have.
When I was there, I found that the topic was controversial and not everyone agreed, but I'm curious to see what both of you think. Because Chile has such a diverse climate, you have so many different microclimates. You also have a lot of different grapes planted. And Cabernet Sauvignon is your star. That's the grape that put Chile on the map. It's still recognized internationally. Obviously, today you do a lot of different other grapes, but there were some people mentioning that not every grape has the same need for water, and Cabernet Sauvignon needs more water. What is your feeling are we gonna have to change the landscape of grape also, or you think that if you plant Cabernet Sauvignon, excuse me, perhaps in another region, then it's not so much a problem? How do you see that going forward?
Carolina, or you go first, or whatever you want.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that is a hard question. It's like when you ask to Argentina about the Malbec, no? What is your advantage? Well, I think the Cabernet Sauvignon has been the history of the wine viticulture in Chile that has been more than 200 years. So, I mean, I think it's very important to consider that. And it's like the thing is you have to have both. One is the tradition and your advantages, and the other is the exploration and to be dynamic in other wine varieties. And of course, I cannot say Cabernet Sauvignon probably has a little bit more water, but it's not so a big difference, in the use of water between the Cabernet Sauvignon and other varieties. But the other thing that has to be in place is the Carmenère. We are the country where it was rediscovered, the Carmenère. Mm-hmm. And we have been the first, last year it was the 30th anniversary of the rediscovery of the Carmenère after it was killed by the phylloxera in France. So I think we have a responsibility also, and we have a very nice history now in the development of the Carmenère. And now you can find Carmenères that are amazing that you never thought, because it's not this green variety that at the beginning the wine looks green. And so I think we have the opportunities, and doing the studies, I think we never abandon it. We should never abandon the Cabernet, because really, in terms of terroir, when you put you are tasting a Cabernet Sauvignon from the Maipo or whatever, with the Cabernet Sauvignon or France or Italy, Sassicaia, Ponte Canet, Camus or whatever, you can see that it's real in the big leagues. So you have to deal with both, like in life. It's nothing black or white.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with ELENA, Michelle. There's a very interesting study from Arturo Cifuentes from Universidad Católica here in Chile, who studied the effects of climate change on the quality of the Cabernet of the Maipo Valley in Chile. He launched it really a few months ago, and it's really interesting if someone wants to see it. It's online. And he analyzed how the quality of the Cabernet Sauvignon has changed in the past 30 years due to climate change. And the conclusions, the analysis is very deep, and it's based in the change in the temperatures, the maximums, the average, and the minimum, also the rainfalls. He integrated a whole analysis. And at the end, the conclusion was that the effects of the climate change, of course, he calculated that the Central Valley has increased in almost 1.5 and 2 degrees from 30 years ago. But this cannot confirm that the quality has been affected. Why? Because of the introduction of technology, because we are today more prepared to react and to take action when high temperatures start hitting our vineyards in summer, because the cellars are better prepared to in their winemaking processes. So at the end, what we see is that Cabernet Sauvignon is still thriving, and it will continue in the medium long term, because the effects of climate change today are manageable. The thing is, what will happen in 100 years of that, right? But as Elena mentioned, these open new opportunities to see other varieties, to explore new valleys, to rescue varieties that were forgotten, like Cepa País, to focus on Carmenere, as Elena mentioned. So it gives more dynamic and more diversity to the origin as Chile as a total.
Great. You keep on talking about opportunities, both of you. So I'd be curious to see. I know there are probably many, but I believe that in every challenges there's always opportunities, and it's a way to explore different avenues. What do you see the opportunities in the context of climate change for the future of Chile? Elena, I'll start with you.
Yeah, for me, is the exploration of the big valleys a little bit to the south. This is a country, as I told, very narrow, but with a lot of territories that are with a very, very few population, and no intervention. So you have a lot of valleys still that you can introduce the vines and are going to be very, successful, because this is a terroir that has been proved that can do it, and with a little bit with the influence of the climate change that can do it. And also consider the story of these new varieties that can be implemented in the south. So it's a huge opportunity for me to explore South Hemisphere. I mean, the South Cone.
Elena, what would you say in the South? Is there regions particularly that you feel it's becoming more popular, even though people might not have planted yet, they're looking at that specific region? Would you say it's the Maule or?
Yeah, well, now it's very Valle de Itata, and that is in the south, that is very remote. But a little bit to the south, let me remember the name of where we have been planting with the university is, what's the name of the? Osorno. Sorry,
Yes.
but I'm from Spain, and sometimes the names of Chile is a mix. But it's Osorno, and there is some valleys in the south that has more, there are microclimates, they have sometimes not so much rain. I think the opportunity is there, but we need to be very carefully. We need to take care about the mistake that we did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the biodiversity. So if we're going to introduce the vines in these new valleys, we need to consider the biodiversity of these terroirs and these valleys, and to do these corridors, these natural things, because we already learn about to do like that. So it's not to plant like in a crazy way, but we can do it. At least we have the territory for doing. That is my point. That I don't know, maybe I don't want to put an example, but in a country that is not in the parallel, and has this like
more
this
challenging.
it's more difficult to go to anyway. So for us and we have been doing, and the work with the universities here, well, Carolina mentioned that study. We work together for the last 25 years with all the university, the private sector, the wineries, and the universities. This is the Consortium of Research and Development that I mentioned in Wines of Chile. So I think it's a good thing because we are a small group. Chile is not so big. That is the good thing, that it's easy to coordinate that people. So we can do it. I think we can do it.
Thank you. Carolina?
Yes, Michelle, agree. Exploring the South. We have a really beautiful project in the south of Chile, in Malleco, with indigenous communities. And I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this might be impossible to achieve if climate change hasn't challenged us to move and look and explore forward. And this has given us a chance to collaborate with the communities that are based in the south of Chile, because we have to consider that that the Araucanía region, where the Malleco Valley is, we are doing a beautiful Pinot Noir there called Tayu. It's mainly indigenous communities, so and a community that has been left behind by the Chilean government, the Chilean society as a whole. So this has been a beautiful opportunity for us to interact with them, to create a business with them, to learn about them, to start creating new trust between two communities, and this has been beautiful and has been really possible because we challenge us to move to the south and interact with the communities that were located there. So for us, at least until today, it has been the good side of the climate change. We have been able to interact with others, and that's very good.
I have a question for both of you. You keep on talking about the social aspect of it. I know it's a sensitive topic, not just in Chile, but in many countries, actually. Is there a desire to work with legislation to put a minimum pricing for grape purchase so that the growers can be paid, in a way that it's fair? Is there something put in place for that, or do you foresee things moving in that regard?
Well, I will say that the price of the grapes is not a particular big issue in Chile, in terms that the producers, the small producer, are not viable to continue in the business because of the price. Even that we are three big groups, even that is VSPT, Santa Rita Estates, and Viña Concha y Toro. I will say that to work in the legislation sometimes came after you work with them in the elaboration, because most of the things, for example, the sustainability program that we are working with the wineries, we have been working with the producers, with the small producers. So, I mean, we have been doing a work with them. And in fact, sometimes most of the best grapes that we are dealing with now are coming from these small producers. So in different examples, in the south, in the valley, in the news. So we are learning to work with them. So I think I will tell you, and this is my opinion, not only because I work in the Chilean wine industry, because I was dealing with the World Wine Trade Group also. And Chile in particular is not a country that has this unfair situation in terms of the pricing. And also it's not a country that you have a problem in the labor law, related, because it's very strict on that. So I will tell you that always you have to work with that. But I think at first you need to continue working with them because they are your insume, and sometimes the best that you can have. So, and then legislation is going to come because you are working with them, but not because you are going to impose in advance, because I think is the other part to work together.
Yes, I mean, we don't see today any laws coming to regulate the market. Today, the prices are set by the market, by the demand, by the sales that the country is and the exports that the country has. But as we see at VSPT, we think we have to work hand by hand with the producers, with our suppliers, in order to make them more sustainable, to make their production more efficient, in order to help them control their costs, because sometimes they are little farmers and they don't know how to control costs. So part of our programs are there in order to create a supply chain more robust with more profitability for them. But sometimes you have to work day by day with them to analyze and understand why their production are not being profitable for them. So you have to work with them. You have to create an ecosystem with your suppliers that in where everyone take a benefit of it. So that's the good part. We have the chance to collaborate and make them successful as well.
Thank you. We have a question that I'd like to take because I know that time is flying. So Paul is asking, hi, glass bottle have been mentioned a few times, and I'm aware of the stigmas and perception on anything but glass. But I'm curious if is there a consideration being given to alternative packaging for wine, example, aluminum bottles, lined carton, etc.
Carolina, you first this time to be a little bit.
Yes. I don't know if I understand well the question, but if the thing is, if we are seeing other formats,
the question is, Paul is aware of the stigma around alternative packaging, but given that it's a lesser carbon footprint, are you considering alternative packaging?
Of course, we should be able to have everything, a good balance of portfolio where the bottle is still the bottle, and premium wines and traditional wines, and the traditional consumer needs the glass somehow. Of course, there's a chance with younger consumers, younger generation, in producing new formats for them. There's also a chance to try to interact in different consumption occasions where the can will be perfectly suitable. So we have different formats in our portfolio, but of course the big portion of what we sell is still in glass. But we are selling in can, we are selling in bagging box. We have Tetra, mainly in the Nordics. It is very well demand there. And it's a challenge, of course, but I don't think the industry will leave the glass behind. I think the solution is more in the optimization of the portfolio, in the optimization of the glass components, the recycling components, etc.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. That is always a big question. But, I just came last week from Provine, and in Provine, last 5 Provines, there is a big, in hall, there is a big, not only one stand, one booth, there is several of different formats for wines. Even it's not only can, it's also some bottles of carton, something very, it's amazing, So we are exploring, and we, as I told you, we are putting some pressure on the glass company. There is something feasible, and that is something, the technology that now they cannot do it, but we are pressing because they needed to move on that. But we always, in sustainability, you have always to consider the effects of the second. I will tell you, even in the energy. I'm going to put you an example, but if we go 100% to electric energy, we're going to have the problems of the battery and the rest of this in 50 or in 100 or in 300 years. So it's need to consider this life cycle analysis, and in the packaging is the same. If we go, for example, to pets or other things, okay, they are not intensive in energy, so the carbon is going to be less. But the recycle thing is a big issue, So, and in Tetra, well, if we talk about the Tetra, the recycle thing, so all the packaging has a positive and a negative effect in different things of the sustainability. Related to climate change, of course, the glass is in the carbon footprint. But we have to say that in recycled thing is very clean packaging. So because you can recycle a lot of time and you can, so I think if we are as a humanity able to innovate in the technology for doing glass with renewable energy, we're going to have something. But if you see the history of the wine since 6,000 years before Christ, we have been a lot of formats. So nothing is, no, I mean, it depends on the long term that you are looking. If you are looking, of course, I agree with Carolina, if we are looking in 20 years or 30 or 50 or whatever, we are talking about the good wines are still in glass. So we have to press the glass companies. But probably, I don't know, in 200 years or in 300 years, what is going to happen? We are in an industry that came from a lot of thousands of years.
Thank you. I will take two more questions. So Claude is asking, I know very well the issues with indigenous tribes in South America. I would like to know if the indigenous people in the South are actually the owners, or are the owners of the new wineries, or are they just mostly workers?
In our case, Claude, we work with a community that own their lands. We have a model, a contract that implies that we borrow money to them so they can plant and build their vineyards and cultivate their vineyards. And at the end of that contract, we buy the productions to them. So it's a collaborative project in our case. The land is owned by the Mapuche community. This is the local indigenous community in the south. And we are partners in this. So we are creating capacities and capabilities in them so they can become in entrepreneurs, in producers, not only for us, but to supply the rest of the industry. We truly believe that the most important value of this project is that they own the land, and they will in the future be able to sell their grapes to anyone that is interested in it.
Thank you, Carolina. Elena?
Yeah, well, I think, the wine industry and the elaboration of the wine has a cable to the territory that is more sustainable for me. I mean, in terms of the development that you can create in the area, in the cultural things. I mean, difference to other, how do you say, crop, other, I will tell you, like the forestry or whatever, it's quite different because you are creating a culture, and a culture that is based in the terroir. And with that, you can create economic local economic development. So that is very important that we consider. That's what I told before, that if we are approaching to the south, we have to be careful with the biodiversity, with not doing monocultives. And we, of course, we learn to work in this aspect of the development in the local territory. So this is like Carolina is doing. We are not working with the indigenous in that way of having the lands, but we are working with producers that are Mapuches, so they are selling our grapes, and we are teaching them to cultivate. But it's important we keep the vines, but also they keep their own crops, in order not to impose to a cultural place only your vines, So it has to be, and this is something, for me, that is the most important thing. The social aspect in the future is going to be the key point. And how we learn from the experience in the past and not doing the same mistake.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Elena, I think the wine industry, if we do things correctly and we have a chance to learn from the past, it can be such a sustainable crop, all around. And I also believe, in the opportunity is in the opportunities, I think that it's also a way to communicate what we're doing to younger consumer or a bit disengaged with wine right now. But yet we have everything they're looking for. They're sensitive to sustainability. They want something that is not full of sugar, that is kind of a clean product. Well, we just have fermented grapes. So we tick so many of the boxes. And I think if we do things properly and we manage to communicate that effectively, I also think it will help for the long-term sustainability of the wine industry to engage with the younger consumer. I really feel that.
Yeah. Michelle, I would like to add something to this because it's one of my big topic now is the cultural aspect and the territorial valorization. The wine industry is one of the industries that generate this cultural thing that allow the communities to develop with the enotourists. Because we're not only selling wine, we are selling, the experience, the way of life, the history of the wine, from the way to share in with the people, and the cultural things. So the enotourist is now one of the things that is promoting more the local development in the territories. So, and in the wine industry, you need to have this in small scales. And very, with the cable to that terroir. So this is the most important thing, and we can do it because, well, you can see, even it was the multifunctionality of the agriculture a long time ago in Europe, and they use like an advantage. So now we need to work on that.
I will take one more question and then we have to wrap it up. So Juan asked, what are the main initiatives from both the VSPT group and Vina and Rita to face water scarcity? So can you be a bit more precise on the initiative that you're both doing in regards to water?
Yes, of course. In our case, it's more like working in the efficient technology in the vineyard. We are investing in Cholander bombs or VDR system that calculate the humidity of the canopy of the soil, so we can be totally precise. And as Elena mentioned, that we use that drop of water totally in an efficient way. So today is more we are working in the efficiency and the rationality of the consumption of this resource. But of course, we have to move forward to invest in ways of preserving water, reusing water, etc. And as I mentioned before, I truly believe that the country needs to invest as a whole because we all are in a risk, not only the wine industry.
Elena?
Thanks. In our case, as I explained before, is because we are working with drip irrigation. The 99% of our vineyards now add with that technology. And also we are adding, as Carolina said, the technology with the sensors for having the variables before in advance to the use of water. So with that, we have been reducing, and this is like the use of technology, it's only that. We are reducing 50% of the use of water that we used to do with no drip irrigation. So now we are working on that. And is also because, the water is now a resource that is very expensive. It's very expensive. So for being sustainable in the economic part, you need to have all this technology because otherwise you're going to be out. So, and I think, well, we need to continue studying, the soils and the relation with the vine varieties that we are planting for adaptation. And continue in that line. But the pressure that we do to innovation for creating new technologies is amazing, and obviously we need to adapt immediately because we need it. Other way we're going out.
And I just want to add to this. I think one of the goal of facing climate change is to provide networking, and also I know I can see some of the people that are listening. I know a winemaker, for example. She's in another part of the world where water is an issue, and I don't think they've gone so far in terms of the technology, maybe as Chile or Australia, because water is still, they have resources, but I think it's really important to collaborate, not just within countries, but between countries, because often, a problem or an issue that someone is having, it will be down the road an issue for someone else. So I hope that I can see some of you are listening from other countries, that I hope that it gives you a bit of some points or some key factors to think about and explore, and reach out to other people to put in place those technology, because when water does come expensive, it makes a big difference. You have no choice, and it forces you to adapt and find solutions. I want to thank you both. We already over time a little bit. Thank you so much for all of your great questions. We've had a lot of people saying this was a really informative session, and it really enjoyed it. So I know you both have a busy schedule. So Carolina and Elena, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you who are listening, if you know people who wanted to join and were not able to join, it has been recorded, and the webinar will be put by next week on tastingclimatechange.com website. And I will also send the link that you can rewatch through the newsletter. So if you're not registered at the newsletter, you can go to tastingclimatechange.com and just register, and you'll have access to the recording. And I hope to see you everyone soon. We are preparing Tasting Climate Change 2026, which will be another fantastic edition. So I hope to see you there. And in the meantime, we have more webinars that will be presented. Thanks again, Elena and Carolina.
Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you,
Thank you,
Michelle.
everyone.
Have a great day.
And
Bye-bye.
thank you, the audience, for the patience. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.